Hello again, I'm Ronald Griffin and this is part 2 of a wallpaper tutorial in Cinema 4D and After Effects. If you haven't watched part 1 then you won't really be able to follow along. You might be able to learn some things, but I highly recommend watching part 1 as this really belongs to that. Okay, so assuming you're right where we left off, all we have to do now is launch After Effects. I have CS5 in this case. Doesn't matter which version you have. You know, they all do the same thing at the end of the day, but yeah, we're not going to be using any plugins, so well, hardly any plugins, so it doesn't really matter what version you have. Okay, so we've had our render from our Cinema 4D project file, and it's at 1920 by 1200 resolution, and so all you have to do is drag it into your project here, or you can go to File, Import, and we'll just drag it into the Make New Comp button down here. And that opens a new composition with our specifications. I said this in the last tutorial, but if you're wondering why I'm not using Photoshop, it's simply because I can do everything I need to do in After Effects here, and I'm a lot more confident teaching you in After Effects, and also my audience is primarily After Effects and whatnot. So we'll continue in After Effects. Okay. So we have our image, and we'll just, for the purpose of keeping this organized, we'll just name it Wallpaper. First thing I'm going to do is go to Layer, New Solid, and I'll make a black solid, 1920 by 1200, make comp size if it's not. We'll go up here, and we'll hold down Mouse 1, and we'll scroll over the ellipse tool, and we'll let go. With black solid selected, we'll double click, it creates a elliptical mask, and mask 1, subtract. So now we have a vignette, obviously not one that's faded yet, so you want to drop down mask 1 and we'll up the feather, and we'll mess with the mask expansion here to sort of just give ourselves a nice feathered look in the edges, as seen in the original, which we have right here. Okay, so what we'll do is boost the colors a bit. This is a bit dark, so we'll make a new, or actually we'll just apply some curves to the base layer here. So color correction, curves, and we'll just boost it up a tiny bit. Remember never to overdo it because, well, then things might start looking a bit funky. We just want a bit of light at the top here, which is what I was going for. I mean, that is a light source, so it would make sense. Okay, next we're just going to go to Effects, Color Correction, Tint, and we'll just induce a bit of tint into the image, maybe something like 20%. And there's not really much difference here, much difference at all. It just means I can dim this blue a bit. Actually, that might be a bit too much. I don't want this going like black and white style, but it's really simple. It's sort of a simplistic, minimalistic wallpaper. So. No, that's a bunch of words, simplistic, minimalistic. Okay, color correction again, and we'll apply levels. And here we can sort of mess around with all the levels. We'll go into blue, and we'll just apply just the slightest tint of blue here. And we'll also apply just a slight bit of green. Again, never too much, just the slightest bit. So now we've got sort of this green, blue, and black and white look going on. And if we switch these off, we can just click effects down here. You can see there is a difference. Yeah, there is correction there, and I strongly advise always to correct once exported out of Cinema 4D. If you have magic bullet looks, you can apply a bunch of presets and stuff. But in this case, we don't need to use any third-party plugins for our color. What I'll do next is I'll write some stuff. So we'll take the text tool. And the slogan for Arch Linux, which if you haven't actually realized what that is, it's an operating system, it's a distribution of Linux, is keep it simple, stupid, KISS. So keep, and I'm using a font called Eurostyle. It doesn't really matter what font you use. Of course, well, it does matter, it's typography, but it doesn't matter in this case, you'll still be learning the same concept. We'll leave typography for another tutorial. So we just want a bunch of words here to spread out. Again, I'll show you the original. We have them sort of faded into the background, and what we have done here is very simply I've added a camera And I made a depth of field tutorial before about After Effects, but I'll do it again here very quickly. We'll take all of these text layers and we'll make them 3D objects. And what I'll do right now is I'll just offset them in Z space. So you can see here, if I go close, you can see we have this tool, and you can go down here in this view box, and you know, we can have a couple of different views. So if I look at it this way, you know, I can move this closer, and we'll move this back, and you know, we'll just sort of offset them. And what we can do is we can go back into one view, and at this point, you know, if we rearrange it side to side, it doesn't change the Z value. So I would say I am more or less a happy man with that. Okay, so we'll select all of these and we'll go to transfer modes, which is just here. If you don't see transfer modes, you may have a switch down at the bottom which says toggle switches and modes. You might want to click that, and then it should pop up. So we'll just try some different transfer modes, like overlay. Yeah, overlay was the original one I used. So we have overlay, and we'll rename that to vignette, and we'll put it above. So now what I'll actually do is I'll go ahead and apply a ramp to each and every one of these. And if you want more brightness, you can duplicate. You know, there's a bunch of different things you can do to change it around. But we'll go to Effect, Generate Ramp, and at this point we get two little pick tools, and we can see here, you know, this kind of affects our text. So we've got this background going on, and we want it to sort of to seem very foggy, I guess it would be the right way to describe it. But we can change the start color to white and the end color to black. We can change it to the radial ramp here, and that way we can sort of have this black in the edges if we want. So it's darker in the edges, that's sort of the look I'm going for. And then we can just copy and paste this ramp onto the rest of the layers, but we'll have to move the little the picks around, just so we can, you know, we have to change it for each, we have to change the position for each text layer. So here we are. And you can do whatever you want with this. This is your project, not mine. I mean, this is just the way I would do it. Yeah, it's entirely up to you what you write here or whatever, but this is just showing you exactly what I did in the beginning to achieve the original. So we're almost done here, but now we're going to induce depth of field. Actually, natural depth of field. So we'll go Layer, New Camera. And what we've already done is, I'll select the 35mm preset. What we've already done here is, you can see if I switch that on and off, you can see 35mm just means it's a different viewing point. It's a different aspect ratio and everything. Okay, so what we've already done is we've offset the letters in Z space. So if we go down into the camera options, so you twirl it down, you hit on for the depth of field, and now you may not see it yet, but there is actually real dynamics going on here. We can change the focus distance, and you can see at a certain point, you know, things just become out of focus. And if we change the aperture, which I love aperture, we can bring out some layers, and you could just simply enough go ahead and just apply, you know, lens blur to each and every one of these, you know, differently depending on how much blur you want. But originally I just slapped a camera in here because I thought it would be cool to sort of have that effect going. And what I'll do is I'll move some of these even further toward the camera in Z space, of course, not scaling it or anything. And so here we'll just put this in focus. And we don't want to blur the text in the background so you can't read it. We just want that sort of mysterious look going on. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll just adjust this this ramp here because we're losing a bit of the S. Okay, and adjust that too. All right, so now we've got the letters and we've got Arch Linux, and we're ready to give it just one last dose of correction overall. And what I can do is I can go to Layer, New, Solid, and I can apply some optical flares there. Go J.J. Abrams on this. But that's only if you have optical flares. Of course, you don't need optical flares to make this look good. It's just one of those things. It adds tiny specks to the screen or whatever. I only want to use it for the fall off from the lens in any case. So as I said, you don't need it. It's purely just one more touch, and you can achieve it many different ways. Okay. So we have this off to the side here, and obviously we don't want this much. We just want a tiny bit. Maybe 10. Yeah, 10 is good. Okay, so we'll put that below everything. And we have just sort of this streak going on here. I mean, it looks kind of funky. It just adds some more element to it. We'll go back and edit our vignette. If you double tap M, it drops down all the mask controls here. We just want it to be a bit darker. So here we go. We're looking pretty good. We're going to apply one more layer. So layer, new, adjustment layer. And this will be final color. And we'll just go to effect, color correction, curves. And at this point, we can just mess around with the final look of the image. And we can just make it a bit more green by taking some blue out. And you know, at this point, we're pretty much done. It's looking good. I'm pretty happy with this. You know, you could do much more with this, but this is sort of the result you'll be looking for. It just shows that with After Effects and Cinema 4D, you can quite easily make a wallpaper for yourself, depending on what logo you have and whatnot. So I hope you learned something from this tutorial. I hope it taught you something. I'm still quite new with Cinema 4D, so if I made a bunch of mistakes, you know, don't eat me out. But yeah, so that was just a tutorial, Cinema 4D, After Effects. If you have any questions, you can email me. You can find that information on my YouTube channel. You can drop a comment. I'm pretty busy these days, so you know, I can't read every comment, but I'll sure as hell try to get back to you. So again, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Hope it wasn't too long for you, and hopefully you'll subscribe, like the video if it helped you, and I'll see you back with another tutorial in the future.